All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, even to the chagrin of Evan Sowards over there in LA, who sends me stand-up comedians taking shots at my city here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Evan, how are you, sir?
I am doing well. Life is back to normal. LA is sunny and warm again.
And it's probably going to be that for like the next 7 months, right?
Yeah. It was a dark, like 2.5, 3 months where it literally rained here more than Seattle, which is an absurd, insane thing. And I mean, honestly, Jarrett, like, how dare you with that Seattle helmet in the background? I take it's a personal affront to me and all that I believe in.
I think it's a good-looking helmet. And also here, Jarrett Bailey, friend of the pod, writer of Everywhere, also the Pump Fake podcast, so many different things. He's got a lot going on. Jarrett, how are you?
I'm doing well. I started just collecting mini helmets, like throwback helmets. I'm going to try to get the Kelly Green Eagles one within the next week or so. And that'll actually probably go here. And then I'm going to move the Batman over to all my other Batman stuff and then put this one there. So a lot of moving around will take place. What comedian was taking shots at Knoxville?
I don't even know who it was. Who was it, Evan?
He'd have to go into the messages and see.
He sent it to me. It was unprovoked, Jarrett, and was just taking shots at how just backwards and country Knoxville, Tennessee is. And
here's the thing: I am the biggest nerd when it comes to stand-up comedy, and I'm trying to think if I have seen it, and I'm just racking my brain, but I can't.
Was it Sam Morril, maybe? I don't know.
It might have been Sam Morril. He's great. There's a comedian who's from Tennessee that I really enjoy. His name's Dusty Slay, and I think that you would like him too. So
Dusty Slay. I have not.
It was Mark Normand, I think.
Oh, Mark Normand's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
He kills me because he just comes out. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" He always ends with a high voice. I love Mark Normand.
There you go. That's kind of what's his name? Dimitri. Is it Dimitri Martin who does a lot of that?
Dimitri Martin.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I like him. Well, there you go. That's our comedy minute here on the program. We have some NFL stuff that we need to get to, and we have to kick things off here because Evan texted me and he was like, "Do not let me forget this," because Evan is going like, Jarrett, this is
not even that big of a deal. I just wanted you to remember to remind me because I'm wildly ADHD and I will forget. But I saw that. I don't know how many, I'm sure everyone did because it was like the first thing that I saw when I woke up today. But like Breer came out today and it's been a slow leak of Trey Lance like news, and that everyone is like, well, they're not talking about Trey Lance. They're only talking about Purdy, or now they're not even using his name. And it's like now like it's like he's starting to become Voldemort, where like he like don't say his name type thing. Like, but like Breer just came out today and basically was like, yeah, they're not wasting any more time with Trey Lance. Like, I feel like Trey Lance had 4 games. He got injured because Kyle likes to run him up the middle. But like literally, you can tell now. I feel like I'm sure you two from the outside looking in can absolutely tell. Kyle Shanahan seems to hate Trey Lance. Like, there is no like, well, we spent 3 first-round picks on him and completely like mortgaged our future on this guy, so we want him to at least compete. None of that. It's just like, no, Brock Purdy's better, so Brock Purdy's going to start, and we're not going to waste time developing Trey Lance anymore. Like, that's essentially what I got out of that quote. Am I wrong?
You go ahead first, Jarrett.
If I never hear any more discussions about the 49ers quarterback room for as long as I live, I will be better because of it. I am so sick and tired. The last 3 years, this is all this has been. Now, where will Trey Lance go? I first of all, Swords, I do think that it's going to be Purdy. I think that he's earned that with the season that he had last year. Good for him. Now it just becomes a matter of when Lance gets moved and where he goes. But in terms of like, does Kyle hate Trey Lance? I don't think he hates him, but I think that they expected more for what they gave up to move up and get him. And yeah, Jimmy was the starter throughout Trey's rookie year. He had, those couple instances where he got in against Detroit, against Green Bay, and then had to come in and start a few games when Jimmy got hurt. And then, obviously last year happened where the one full game that he started was in a monsoon in Chicago, and then gets injured in the first quarter against Seattle, and that's his season.
A reminder, he played against the Cardinals the year before where Kyle Shanahan ran him up the middle about 10 times. And then he played in a monsoon that was, by the way, a monsoon that was a Bears fan. Let's never forget that it literally stopped raining during their drives and kept raining once the Niners got the ball. And then he broke his ankle. Like, that's what happened. Like, I think it's just like, I don't know. I think it's just the way the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan are. Because remember when Jimmy Garoppolo had his first 5 starts, he went undefeated. The world was his oyster. He's dating porn stars. Everyone said he's going to just, he's getting new contracts before anyone really knew. Tore his ACL and the team immediately hated him. Everyone hated him. No, they had no, oh, maybe he can come back from it. It was just immediately like, he's not good enough. Fans were like, he's not good enough. And now Trey Lance is literally not played, basically, all intents and purposes. The Niners could have Micah Parsons right now.
They didn't have Mac Jones. No. They could have just taken Mac Jones.
No.
But they were rooming through the whole time. Just said taking Mac Jones. He plays. Mac Jones would have been fine.
Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Mac Jones. Get out of the idea of that's the entire point. They didn't need to take a quarterback. They could have just played Jimmy and then drafted Brock Purdy. They could have
hindsight being 2020. Obviously, I think that they would go back and probably have at least one ring had they had Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, and Fred Warner on the same defense.
Without a doubt.
And yes, we can look back in hindsight and say, oh, why did they even move up to take a quarterback and all of this? But the conversation at the time was it's time to move on from Jimmy because they need somebody who's more explosive and can push the ball down the field because he's too conservative. So it's, you can't necessarily have your cake and eat it too in that situation. Now, I want to see where he goes because I think that there's 2 teams to me that stand out where he could go: Tennessee, Baltimore, because it seems that Lamar Jackson that ship has sailed in terms of him coming back to Baltimore. At least from my point of view, I think he's made it pretty evident that he wants a new start. And if you're the Ravens, I mean, are you going to? What are you going to do? Because you don't necessarily have a lot of leverage when it comes to getting one of these rookies this year. You're not in the top 5. You're not in the top 7 unless you give up a whole horde just to try to get to 6, 7. If you move with the Raiders, the only chance that they have at getting one is if they trade with the Cardinals at 3 because they don't need a quarterback, at least not yet. Well, Kyler Murray's a whole different discussion. But that's really their only outsider's chance of getting one of these 4 guys in the draft. Get a Trey Lance for probably a mid-round pick, probably a 3rd-round pick, and as the main the main player in the package would be probably a 3rd-round pick if I had to guess, with a bundle of other picks. And you see what you have with Trey Lance going forward to replace Lamar Jackson, or he goes to Tennessee. They move off Ryan Tannehill. And if they keep Derrick Henry, I mean, Trey Lance, Derrick Henry, you could do worse. So I think that those are the 2 teams to pay attention to when it comes to that. But I do think, it's a matter of when, not if, when it comes to Lance being shipped out of the Bay.
It is absurd to me that it is April 3rd. We're coming up to the draft and Aaron Rodgers still hasn't been traded. We don't know what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson, and no one knows who. I mean, I guess we know now, but who the 49ers quarterback situation, but we're still talking about it.
As somebody who follows is friends with a lot of 49ers, content people, and has a decent amount of 49ers following on Twitter, it seems exhausting to be a 49ers fan. Having to do this every year. I give it to week 6, the 49ers will be 3-2. Brock might have a bad game, and everybody's going to be shipping Brock Purdy out on Twitter.
Can I say something? I think it's ruined my life. It's dramatic, but I was thinking about it the other day, and I think about 2 or 3 years ago, and maybe I'm getting older. Maybe my interests are changing. But I remember I was so invested in all facets of my life of the 49ers football situation. And I remember I had football, and I always work out. Working out and taking care of all that is my number one. But I had football and I worked out and like I was really into like gaming and all of these other things and like everything I was really enjoying. And I feel like it's 3 years later and I'm like, the 49ers is just exhausting. Every aspect of like being a 49ers fan. Like I log on to Twitter now and hate it. I hate Twitter. Like is it just like, maybe it was the Caitlin Clark LSU like discussion the other day, but I'm like, I am just so tired of all football and sports like banter on Twitter. It's exhausting lately.
I mean, I'm not like my whole thing is I schedule and then I lurk and I'll look at stuff. I am still amazed in the year of 2023, there are people willing to get themselves fired to get into spats that are just that we all know from the outside are not going to result in the result that you want when you are entering said spat. The recklessness that I still see on this app every single day is pretty bonkers. But yeah, I'm tied to it because of, I mean, Jarrett, you also get this too, where it's like we're tied to it. Like we need it for our jobs and what we're doing. But by and large, the engagement, yeah, Twitter is absolutely a worse place than it was. I mean, even 6 months ago.
It's
I think
so
that's
bad.
no question. Yeah.
The fact that there are grown people who spent the last like 36 hours arguing over a girl doing the John Cena "you can't see me" thing in a sport that
doing it back. Doing it back, not even being the first one to do it in the between the two people.
And by and large, like college basketball, people care about it for about 3 weeks out of the year. Like, you're gonna look me in my face and tell me you care this much about a sport that you pretend to care about for about 3 weeks because I mean, don't get me wrong, March Madness is very fun, but in about a month they're gonna forget this even happened, and the arguments that come from it is stupid, very, very stupid. Who cares?
It's not that serious. Theo Ash had a good point about this. It's like a good personality. He tweeted this the other day. I saw this. I think this is the best take on the whole thing. It's that whole art, like snafu, whatever you want to call it on Twitter. It's like, it's a good personality litmus test for the two different types of people in this world. The ones who throw out the class and the other ones who are like, who cares? Like, not a big deal. And you really figure out, is this a good hang or a bad hang? I think a lot of people showed which kind of hang they are and what kind of personality.
But it's like a microcosm of a larger issue here. It's like Twitter used to just be a bunch of people hanging out at a bar that like talking about sports, and that every now and then we got lucky, and then like some real writers and like some real professionals came in and sat down at the bar and talked sports with us, and that was cool. And sometimes you'd get to like say something to your favorite athlete and they'd respond or they'd click like, and you'd be like, wow, that's cool. I'm like connected to this sport and team that I like really a lot. And it was so great because of the community that you could have talking about something that we all love in the NFL, football, amongst people, getting to meet people like Chase, getting to meet people like Jarrett, getting to talk about sports for fun. But
Twitter really doesn't like, none of this exists without Twitter.
No, not even close. But like now it's like
a bar fight every day.
Well, it's like now that was like 10 p.m. the best time at the bar, like 9:30, 10 p.m. People are just starting to have a couple drinks. It's like Twitter now is like 3 a.m. or like 2:30 a.m. in a bar where it's like there's a girl throwing up in the corner, a guy just threw a chair, some loud dude keeps playing like Dust in the Wind on the jukebox like over and over and over again. Like, it's a nightmare. And it's just like, we all came here to talk sports, but now the loudest people that have the worst takes just like come in and just like get mad and just say like ridiculous things. It's just
but then everyone gives them the platform and engage and are like, how can you? And then you're like, why are you? That's just the whole point, is they want the reaction.
I hate daytime sports talk television so much.
Yeah,
because
but you know what's funny?
What's up?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just that people with the dumbest takes who know that they're dumb takes, but will spew them because they know they have an audience and have a platform, and it'll piss people off. Where it'll get them attention, they'll just spew it Monday through Friday from 10 to noon, and that's what controls the vast majority of the space. And I have a pure hatred for that.
We've consciously acknowledged for like the last 5 to 7 years, everyone agrees that First Take and shows like First Take are god awful. That like the sports debate TV show format is terrible. Every day I see a clip from those shows. Every day someone gets mad about something that's said on there. We've all agreed that it's worthless and should not be like discussed, talked about. Everyone agrees that it's a waste of everyone's time. Yet they keep bringing it to the timeline to complain and to try and dunk on people that will never read their tweets.
Yeah.
Look at Jarrett. Look at how much Evan doesn't want to talk about Trey Lance no longer being the franchise quarterback for San Francisco. He brought First Take into this. He brought in the discourse of what's happened to Twitter.com. This is a man who is gone through hell and back with the quarterback situation in San Francisco. He wants no part of going with, oh, the robotic arm guy. He's our franchise quarterback. Our quarterback room is not going to have Jimmy Garoppolo, might not have Trey Lance, and we're going to have to
Sam Darnold, week 1, baby. Let's do it,
guys. What I'm saying is, life is meaningless, and we all die one day. We're all just dirt in the ground. No, but it's like
they're gonna draft somebody, right? Like that's what's gonna happen. They're gonna trade Trey Lance, and they're gonna draft somebody.
I hope it's like the Patriots drafting like Ryan Mallett, even though they had prime Tom Brady. Just keep going. No, but the point that I'm making is all tied into that, especially with Trey Lance and especially with the Jimmy G and all those things. It's like, these are conversations that should have stopped happening. We shouldn't be talking about the QBs in San Francisco, but because there's nothing else to talk about and it's just, it's empty calories. It's McDonald's. It's easy to make, easy to eat, easy to consume. We just keep going.
Dude, I will believe in God again if Stetson Bennett is drafted by the 49ers. That would make me the happiest human being on earth. And
you can't have two guys with that kind of dog in him, though. Brock's got that dog in him, undersized. You can't have both with all that power. I'm not convinced that well, I mean, my guy Hendon's going round 1 now, which is top notch.
No, he's going top 5 apparently, according to
that's one particular one. I don't think he's doing that, but I do think it is fun that he's getting that kind of buzz. I don't know, like it wouldn't surprise me if Stetson Bennett like got on and just he found a home with somebody, maybe even Baltimore. Like Baltimore would be hilarious. He gets to reunite with Todd Monken.
I think me and Kevin Ostreicher from USA Today and Longtime Ravens, he was on my show not that long ago, and I teased him about that. And now, I mean, it's maybe possible. We'll see. Yeah. No, I'm not a Stetson Bennett guy. I think that it's just one of those things where like we've reached this point in April where like, okay, we need something to talk about. Stetson Bennett could go round 1. Sure. Why not? Let's push this narrative for a minute. And then he's going to go round 3 or 4. He'll be a journeyman who gets in every once in a while, and everybody will be like, oh my goodness, that's Stetson Bennett. Remember when he, was 26 in college playing against 19-year-olds, and everybody thought he was going to be great because he's 7 years older than everybody.
What if the Vikings just trade Kirk Cousins for Trey Lance? North Dakota State legend, Trey Lance.
That's the thing. It's not.
I didn't realize how much I wanted that until you just said that. Let's do it.
It's not done yet. That's what I'm saying. Like they're still talking about Kirk Cousins. Like today, there was people tweeting that at the combine there was Kirk Cousins rumors to the 49ers. Like. Kyle is a whore.
Both sides, though. I don't hate that. I don't hate that for either side.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, if Kirk Cousins is the 49ers quarterback in 2023, I'm picking them to win the Super Bowl.
If Kirk Cousins is the 49ers quarterback in 2023, I might have to delete my Twitter. Just like, do I think that they could win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins? I think it would be like an unstoppable versus an immovable object. Like Kirk Cousins can't win the big game, and they have a team so good they have to. I just don't think I could deal with the discourse week to week. I'm trying to bring the spark.
Really funny.
I'm trying to bring the spark back, guys. I'm trying to get back to it. I don't know, man.
I'll tell you what, man. I'm on the outside. I'm just vibing, just looking in, and like the Michael Jackson gif when he's at the movies, just eating popcorn and laughing. Yeah. That's me. Just me being a Steelers fan and vibing with life.
DJ Moore is a Chicago Bear now. They have a lot of draft capital. Justin Fields looks like he's still going to be the guy. Travis Kelce can still not identify Matt Eberflus when shown a picture of the head coach of the Chicago Bears in a lineup. I'm not certain I could. I think he is the most unrecognizable current coach in the NFL.
Dude, I covered the Bears and it took me a double take to oh yeah, that's Eberflus. Yeah.
Right? Like he just doesn't have he just is not a memorable looking person, and I feel like that's mean. I'm not trying to be mean, but he's just not. There's nothing distinct about him that makes him stand out.
He's very generic.
Yes, which is, look, I'm not taking shots. It's just that it is. It is what it is.
Some people just have generic faces. Daniel Jones
Right.
has a very generic white guy face.
There you go. They've been active. They spend a lot of money. You bring in Tremaine Edmonds, you bring in TJ Edwards, you bring in Nate Davis, DeMarcus Walker, Robert Tonyan, Deontay Foreman. They've just been very, very active, Ryan Proles. I ask you, Jarrett, based on what they've done to this point, would you say the Bears, who are kind of like an NFC North dark horse in a way, just because of where the Packers look like they're heading, the Vikings losing a lot, and them just trying to prevent a massive tail off of all their kind of overachieving a year ago, and then people expecting the Lions to make the jump when the Bears are sitting there spending a lot. Like when you look at all of that and how they've approached this offseason to this point, are you a fan of their moves and how they've approached it? Where are you at with the Bears? Because I think that's an interesting team, more so than a lot of the other ones people have talked about in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who covers the team, this has been it's given me something to look forward to. Like, yes, they were 3-14 last year. They were competitive in a lot of those games, and a lot of those games were one-score losses. So with a team that, I mean, you look at their offense, Justin Fields' number one target was Equanimeous St. Brown for most of the year. Like, no disrespect to Equanimeous St. Brown, but you got to do better than that. Getting the upgrades that they have on offense, bringing in DJ Moore, the guard from Tennessee, and then Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards, two really good off-ball linebackers. That was one of their biggest needs, and now they have two guys in the middle of their defense that are experienced and both really good. And you look at the talent that they have in the back end. Eddie Jackson's still there. Jaquan Brisker had a really promising rookie year, as did Kyler Gordon at cornerback. This is a team that, we've seen the Bears over the last decade they have little peaks very periodically, and then it's very mediocre. But I think that we're seeing something new from Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. And now it's up to Justin Fields to take a leap. And if you look at, and I'm not saying he's going to have this type of year, but you look at his numbers in year two compared to Jalen Hurts in year two, very, very similar numbers, very similar skill sets. Now, I'm not saying that Fields is going to, run and throw for 1 billion touchdowns in 2023, but is it realistic to think that he can do, 25 passing touchdowns, 8 rushing touchdowns? Yeah. And if he does that, you look at, you mentioned the Packers are definitely going into a different era with Jordan Love. The Vikings are rebuilding that defense, which I know everybody kind of looks at as like, oh yeah, they got to rebuild the defense. It was a horrible defense. Like, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And they brought in Brian Flores, who's going to be a really good defensive coordinator for them, and Kevin O'Connell's a good head coach. But they also went 12-1 in one-score games last year. Like, it was absurd. They're not going to.
And that never translates. Bill Barnwell has been on this for years. That is never a good sign for the following year.
Absolutely not. So for the NFC North in 2023, I can't remember how many years in a row or how many of the last 20 years it's happened. I think it's 18 of the last 20 years, something absurd like that. A team in the NFL at least one has gone from worst to first, and the Bears are, I'd say they're probably the favorite out of all the teams that finished last in 2022 to be able to do that in 2023. I think it's going to come down to the Bears and the Lions for the NFC North, and you know what, that excites me, and I think it's very, very much needed reset for the division, and something different to look forward to in that division.
Yeah. Are you as optimistic about the Bears, Evan?
I mean, I could reiterate a lot of what Jarrett just said, but I mean, I'm hoping for the Bears to do well. I think they have a great city. They have a great fan base. They need some kind of happiness considering their stadium is about to be taken away from the city and stuck out into the suburbs. Yeah. I just love Justin Fields, and I want Justin Fields to become the best quarterback in that draft class, since Trey Lance is not going to be it, allegedly. But I love what they did. DJ Moore is a fantastic, fantastic receiver. The only thing I say is, I hope DJ Moore can really thrive in this offense with the head coach and the scheme and everything, because I feel was still undervalued in Carolina. He was such a very good receiver. He just had incredible hands, caught everything, and it I just felt like he was completely underrated. So I'm hoping that he can have some really good rapport with Justin Fields. I don't know though. It's the Vikings. Like we always do this every single year. The Vikings have a really decent roster, but do they ever do they ever have, it's like having a 600 horsepower engine that, like just drives on the 35-mile-an-hour speed.
Well, that's Kirk Cousins. It's hard to see them falling off if they have Kirk Cousins, because the guy he's not gonna have a bad year. Like, it's just hard to see them being like a 3-14 or the wheels fall off when Kirk Cousins is there. I just feel like he raises your floor so much, but he has a limited ceiling. So it's like he's an extremely frustrating player in that regard. But for me, Jarrett, I think it's really hard for me to see like a gigantic fall off, but I think the 1-score game stuff's real. So I think they are just more of a 500-esque team. And I think this division is going to be a lot of 500-esque teams. Like, I would not be surprised if all 4 of these teams are in the 7 to 10 win range, somewhere, even 6 to 10 win range, something like that.
Oh, no, yeah. I don't know about all that. 7 to 10?
Yeah, somewhere
I think the
around
Packers
there.
are going to be really bad, if I'm being honest. I don't foresee.
I don't see a terrible team in this division. I think they're all going to be okay.
I think the Packers will go like 6-11, 7-10. I mean, obviously the draft hasn't happened yet, but as it stands right now. But yeah, even if like, let's say that the Vikings are like, 7-5, 8-4 in these 1-score games, they're still around 500 and going, 8-9, 9-8. So when you pointed out, when you have a quarterback like Kirk, he's gonna keep you in the divisional race and whatnot. So it'll be fun. I do think that the Packers are definitely the worst team in this division right now. I don't think there's much of a conversation about that. But the Detroit Lions, man, like they were the darling of the NFL last year, and then everybody points out their deficiencies on defense, and they recognized it too. They're like, okay, we're going to go get Cam Sutton. We're going to sign Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. We're going to sign Emmanuel Mosley. We still have Jeff Okudah, who they're probably going to have to kick inside or trade him away if he doesn't want to do that. Regardless, they still have a really good secondary now on paper. Aiden Hutchinson
drafted another elite edge right across from Aiden Hutchinson this year.
Yeah, and they have the number 6 overall pick, and if they would like to do that,
Will Anderson and Hutchinson. Woo!
If Jalen Carter's there, maybe they take a chance on him. Like, there's a lot that they can do. Kalijah Cansey from Pitt, he just ran like the fastest 40 that a D tackle has ever run in the combine. Like,
what's with these Pitt defensive tackles?
You're
up there, Aaron Donald and him. Why are Pitt defensive tackles just physical freaks?
I don't know. I don't pay too much attention to Pitt. I'm a Penn State guy. I do, shameless plug, I do have Pat Narduzzi's number in my phone, so I could call him and ask him.
There you go.
I'm just kidding. He doesn't. I don't know Pat Narduzzi like that. I do have his number in my phone, but I couldn't just call him right now. But regardless, yes, Pitt, a lot of good defensive tackles. I'm excited to see what Detroit can do. That's the bottom line of this. But if it comes down to, like week 17, week 16, and like the Bears, Lions, and Vikings are all, like 7, 8, 9 win teams, and it comes down to the wire, then good for us. We get exciting football in the NFC North.
It also is just kind of amazing how quickly, like when folks are like, oh, look at how barren this situation is. You look at the Jets wide receiver room and you're like, man, look at all that talent everywhere. They're running out of options. Mims has to get sent out because we're bringing in this guy. Like, there's just not enough there's just not enough balls to get around to everybody. And then you look at the Bears where you're like, oh, poor Justin Fields. Like, the guy just has nobody to throw to. And now you look at what he might have next year with Cole Kmet, who I'm a fan of. You bring in Robert Tonyan, so that's 2 solid tight ends right there, safety nets. Darnell Mooney, who I like a lot, and it's pretty undervalued. And if he's like your 3rd guy, I think that's a pretty good spot to be in. Chase Claypool, you make that trade. DJ Moore, obviously a top 10 receiver in this league. You mentioned St. Brown. And then Velus Jones, my guy, like he's a really good player too in the slot. I mean, suddenly like you have 5 or 6 guys that can pop in, are realistic, nice contributors to facilitate a year 3 bump for Justin Fields, right?
I wouldn't be surprised if like Jackson Smith-Njigba is available at 9 if they don't take him. Like that makes a lot of sense for me, because you get a top 4 of DJ Moore, Smith-Njigba, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool. Hell of a lot worse receiver rooms in the league.
For sure. Evan, Thursday Night Football flexing is not happening, at least not yet. When you saw this, your first thought was good or bad idea to flex those late season, like weeks 14 through 17?
I think it's an absurd, insane concept to try and flex a game in which you would normally have to aggressively prepare for throughout the week to have a gameplay be 3 days before a normal game. And what I thought was hilarious is one of the owners that got interviewed, and he was like, we can't do this. Like, we can't do this to the fans or
I
something
think that was
like.
John Mara, the
Yeah,
Giants, who went pretty. I think he used the term pretty strong. Did he say like not
but
reprehensible? He said something strong, and
hold
I forgot
on.
what the word was.
So the thing that I thought was hilarious is like he's going on this like very like emotionally charged rant, and not
Mm.
once does he bring up player safety. He's like, we
Mm.
can't do this to the fans, we can't do this for these reasons, but he never once was like, we can't do this to the players who playing on Thursday with short notice, is potentially harmful health wise. Like, it just shows that like it's never about the player's health. And it should be the only thing. There shouldn't be a game on Thursdays. As much as I love more football,
I wonder, like, especially later on in the year, like let's say the Chiefs are sitting at 9-2 and they're scheduled to play a Thursday night game. Like, if I'm Andy Reid and I know that I'm going to be a playoff team, I'll play Patrick Mahomes for about the first quarter and then I'm pulling him. I'm not. There's no reason outside of the owners wanting more money in their pockets to have Thursday night football. None whatsoever. And like I said, especially, hell, it could be week 3. Like, if Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are playing week 4 Thursday night football, if I'm Andy Reid, I'm saying, look, this is an 18-week practice for us till we get to January. Patrick, I know you want to play. You're going to play for the first half, and then I'm pulling you. I don't care what the situation is. We have more important goals in mind. We want a 3rd Super Bowl. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And look, people complain about the NBA resting players, and they should. Like, I understand. If I was a big NBA guy and I showed up to a game to see my favorite player and he was resting, I'd be mad too. NFL is a completely different animal, though, where it's much more physical, and the beat up that guys go through is a lot more. So if I'm a team like that, like Kansas City, who just has the built-in luxury of knowing you're going to be a playoff team, more than likely, I would use that to my advantage, especially in Thursday night football situations, especially if I'm playing a really bad team. Like if it's Chiefs Texans, oh well, yeah, I'm sure Andy Reid's really, really gearing up for that. Yeah, no, if he's going to be worried about wild card weekend, divisional weekend, looking ahead, not week 9 against D'Amico Ryans, who's rolling out whomever he's going to be rolling out at quarterback. So do I think that that'll happen? Probably not, because these guys are competitors and you don't want to disrupt any sort of, like, especially if the team's rolling and in a groove, you don't want to disrupt that. But it's something that I think people should think about and the head coaches should think about, especially if, the higher tiered teams who are, better off than most teams and could afford to do it.
Well, clearly Amazon was upset. Like, the fact that this came out the first year Amazon had Thursday Night Football, and it's like, hey, we need to start flexing this. Clearly that did not go over well. And I mean, Al Michaels wanting to check out of all of those games down the stretch did not help.
Poor Al Michaels had to sit through Bears, Commanders, and Colts, Broncos in consecutive weeks.
What was the Jets one he had to sit through where like Zach's not crossing the 50? What, and they're just booing him in the rain?
Oh yeah, that's when they put in the that like 8th-string quarterback that everybody loved. They were just cheering because Zach Wilson wasn't in the game anymore. Who are they playing that game?
He was making jokes on the broadcast where he's just like
Al
beside
Michaels
himself.
Any sort of reason to care.
ultimate bag getter. That guy was like, yeah, I will absolutely take this job and just phone it in.
And it's also sad too, because I separately love Kirk Herbstreit and Al Michaels. They have no chemistry whatsoever together. That is a terrible broadcast booth. Like, that has to be
good.
Kirk
maybe
is
I'm in the
stretched too
minority.
thin. Kirk cannot watch enough. He doesn't have the time to be a full-time NFL and college football broadcaster. Like, he just, and I don't blame him for that. Like, he's doing game day. He's doing the game of the week on Saturday nights. He's having to do pod hits, ESPN hits. Like, there's just not enough time in the day. Like, there's just not. And if he's a third guy in the booth where he can just point out like his college ideas, then I think that works. I hope they bring somebody else in for this fall. I hope they add a actual guy. I don't know who it is. Maybe bring Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee can be the
dude. If McAfee did Thursday Night Football, that would rule.
I think that'd be fun. It would help, and it would make you forget what you're watching. Like you would forget about the really boring, terrible matchups.
And
but we also need to bring up those terrible matchups were doing great numbers. So it's like, this is not an issue. This is a rich people problem where you're like, oh, we would prefer to be a little bit better so we can get a little bit more people. It's like, you're still crushing everyone on Thursday nights. Those games were still crushing. Like we make jokes of like, oh, terrible. But it's like, guess what America was watching on Thursday night? They were watching that terribleness. Like, why are we freaking out about it? I just don't understand that.
That game, by the way, Jaguars-Jets, December 22nd, my birthday is when that game took place. And it was a horrible game.
Yeah.
That the Jaguars won 19-3.
I watched it from beginning to end. I was taking notes on that game. I was
gambling on it, live betting.
Yeah. What are we doing? It is what it is. You're not going to solve every game to make every game awesome. You're the NFL. You're killing everybody. You're always going to kill everybody. Just be happy with what you have. Jarrett, you had a TikTok about Derek Carr that I wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
Why does Derek Carr still not make any sense to you in New Orleans this offseason?
I was hoping you would just say, why does Derek Carr not make any sense to you? But if I'm Derek Carr and I looked at the options I have, the Saints would have been at like the bottom of my list because they seem to convince themselves that they're still like contenders, but everybody from the outside looking in can clearly see they're not. Like their defense last year, as a giant truck goes by, did you hear that? Jesus. Their defense last year was, I think, propelled by a weak schedule. And you look at what they have on offense. Like, oh, they're bringing back Michael Thomas, who's played like 13 snaps in the past 4 years. Great. I'm sure that'll be awesome. Alvin Kamara, who does anybody know what's happening with him right now in this legal battle, by the way? Like, are they going to have him? Like,
I think it's still up in the air.
So that's happening. I don't know, man. Who do they have at receiver behind? Is it Marquez Callaway is their second receiver?
No, Chris. Well, I was going to say Chris Olave
too. Yeah, okay. My bad, Chris Olave. I don't know, man. Like, can they compete in that god-awful division? Sure. I still think that on paper, Carolina's the better team right now. And if they get a good quarterback, I think they're winning the division.
Well, hold on there.
I think that
the Falcons are the favorite in that division. No one's having a better offseason than the Atlanta Falcons, sir. No one is having a better offseason.
Desmond Ritter is their quarterback. Har.
Hold on. We love Desmond Ritter on this podcast, and I stand my new age Alex Smith. That is my guy.
Can I go on a slight tangent real quick? Since I mean you're a Falcons guy. The fact that Arthur Blank loved to point out any sort of quote unquote differences between the Deshaun Watson situation, which by the way they were very in on Deshaun Watson, but now they aren't going to be in on Lamar Jackson, is the most hypocritical thing on the face of this planet, and it very much bothers me. Like the fact that they're willing to, it's like, yep, we got Desmond Ritter, we didn't need Lamar Jackson. To hell with it. That I don't know, man. That's why bad football teams stay bad football teams. And I'm not trying to root against Desmond Ritter. I don't know him. I don't wish any ill intent on him. But
he's a good kid.
I don't like it.
I can help you.
Sure he is.
If you want to root against him, I could help you.
Why do you want to root against Desmond Ritter?
Just out of spite. For Trace.
Evan is so jaded. Like the Trey Lance stuff has ruined. Like he is so jaded.
It is amazing to me though that the city of Atlanta has two guys in Trey Young and Desmond Ritter that look shockingly similar and have shockingly similar not good hairlines.
I appreciate you telling me that because I swear to God, if you would have asked me to like choose Desmond Ritter out of a lineup, no amount of money in the world. I would. I have no.
I mean, I know what he looks like.
I mean, yeah. If it was like 18, like 5'2" white guys, and then him, I think I might be able to figure it out. But like, I just have no. Like, you don't like really see him. They were never like the Falcons were notable enough to like for him to be on ESPN, like the interviewing, like anything. I just don't know what he looks like.
He looks a lot older than he is.
Yes, he like they were playing the Buccaneers, and like I was just being rude. Like I tweeted out a picture of Tom Brady and Desmond Ritter, and I said one of these guys looks 47, and the other is Tom Brady.
But I mean, you're not wrong. Like that really is. I mean, Desmond Ritter looks older. Like that
whole division is just gonna be weird. Like I don't think the Saints are gonna be all that good. I like Derek Carr, man. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that they're gonna be. I think their ceiling is getting eliminated in the wild card round. I think that same thing for the Panthers. Like that's their limit as a division, is getting to the wild card and getting the crap stomped out of them by whomever they play. And then the Buccaneers rolling in with Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. Like, okay, good luck with Todd Bowles still as your head coach. Yeah, have fun. That's
they're going to be bad. Like they're my penciled in last place team in the division.
Yeah, them saying that they were confident in Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask, like it's that iceberg meme. Like under that is saying we cannot wait to have Caleb Williams in 2024. It's going to be awesome. Todd Bowles isn't going to be there after this year, I wouldn't suspect, because he's not a good head coach. He's a good defensive coordinator. He is not a good head coach. And then we'll see with Atlanta. Like I like Arthur Smith. He's a very good offensive scheme.
They're the favorites right now. The Falcons, they have to be the favorites.
I would bet that it's the Saints just because of the quarterback situation, and their quarterback is right now very much the best in the division. But if I had to pick one, like after the draft, because I assume Carolina's going to have a good draft, I would probably lean Carolina.
I don't know. I just want to host a playoff game because the new Benz has not hosted a playoff game since it was created.
Is that right?
Yeah, the Falcons have never hosted a playoff game in their new stadium.
When did that stadium open?
6 years ago.
Jeez.
Yeah. It's not been great since the Super
They've been to the playoffs, though, in that span. They just haven't hosted?
Correct.
Okay.
It's rough. It's rough times. Evan, would the Cowboys regret taking Bijan Robinson in the first round?
I mean, drafting a running back worked so well for them last time.
Zeke was pretty good, though. His early Zeke was fine.
You're good.
You guys,
mm-hmm.
The running back situation can only exist if you have an elite team.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
but you don't think Dallas is close to that? You don't think he is a?
No,
I don't know.
Dallas is not.
I think they
close
have the best quarterback in the NFC right now.
I don't. First off, if I agreed with that, which I don't know that I do, it's not saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not saying anything. That's not.
Being the best NFC quarterback right now is like being the tallest dwarf. Like it's
like, like, do you need that extra step ladder? No, you don't. The Keebler elves can get the cookie. No, listen. I understand why everyone wants the Cowboys to take that next step, but they haven't done it. They lost to the 49ers 2 years in a row in the playoffs. In the first year, it was a last-second weird situation. Last year, they got steamrolled. So 2 years in a row, you play the same team essentially.
They lost by a touchdown, Swords.
They were without a doubt, the 49ers were unequivocally the better team.
The 49ers did not look good that game.
I was at the game, sir. I'm aware of how they looked. They looked good. They were significantly better than that. Significantly. The Cowboys couldn't do anything.
Respectfully disagree on that.
I love this. Jarrett, get him. Get after him with the Cowboys.
They won 19-12. It's not like they won by 40, bruv.
No, I understand that, but literally the Cowboys could do nothing. They could accomplish nothing that entire game.
The 49ers did it until like 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
First off, when I'm talking the 49ers in a playoff game, I am talking about their defense. That is the best defense in the NFL. Right. And that's my point. The Cowboys defense is not going to be any different than it was last year. What did they add? What did they do this year in free agency?
They did bring over Stephon Gilmore.
They brought over Stephon Gilmore. I would say they franchised Tony Pollard, which is good. They kept him around.
No. I said, what did they do? What did they add? I love
Brandon Cooks. They traded for Brandon Cooks. There are three.
I love Tony Pollard. I think Tony Pollard should have been the number one running back in Dallas for the last 2, maybe 3 years. I love Tony Pollard, and he's gonna be really good. But that's not enough, and it's not going to be enough. Is Dak going to fix his interception problem, or is it going to stay the same, or maybe even get worse?
Let me say this about Dak, though. This is the first year that he's had real big interception problems. Like the rest of it has just been meh.
Right. As quarterbacks get older, they sometimes get worse.
I don't think he's getting worse, though. I don't even think we've seen the best of Dak Prescott yet.
I'm not going to sit here and like defend Dak wholeheartedly because I think that ship has sailed for me, like pounding the table for Dak Prescott until he shows up and takes the Cowboys past the divisional round.
But could you see them having the number 1 seed in the NFL in the NFC this year?
Absolutely not. I'll bet any amount of money.
Could I see it? Maybe, but I don't know, man. Like that's a lot of consistency from the Cowboys that we haven't seen over the past decade and a half. Like that. This past year is the first time they made it to the playoffs in consecutive years since 06-07. Them doing it 3 years in a row and getting to the number 1 seed.
I'm not trying to be an anti like Dallas. Like it's not a 49ers fan thing. It's nothing like that at all. If they would have had like a better offseason, if they would have like gone like I don't think Stephon Gilmore is the same cornerback that he was.
Oh, sure.
Obviously. I think Brandon Cooks is a decent receiver. And yes, he's been very reliable in all of the teams that he's played on. But I don't think they were one receiver away. I think their defense will probably get a little bit better. Obviously, Micah Parsons is going to have more time. I'm hoping that Diggs learns how to cover rather than just how to grab the ball. But, like, if I would have seen them make attempts, like, in the same way that other teams in the NFL, like, I mean, hell, the 49ers went out and got Javon Hargrove.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to compete right now in this NFL that has Patrick Mahomes, that has Josh Allen, that has Aaron Rodgers potentially going to the Jets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that has like really good quarterback play right now. If you want to compete, you have to do things. Like the 49ers had the best defense in the NFL last year and they got Javon Hargrove. That's how you compete right now. And the Cowboys went out and got Brandon Cooks. Like it's
But I think there's a path where the Cowboys have the best offensive DVOA in the NFC and the 49ers have the best defensive DVOA in the NFC next year. And that makes it a fun playoff matchup. That'd be a fun collision course.
I do also worry that they did lose Dalton Schultz as well, and he was a big part of what they did.
Are you worried about that? I mean, you got Ferguson right there. I don't know.
Sure.
Dalton Schultz is a good tight end.
He's fine. I mean, he had a really bad ending to that playoff game.
Yes, he did. I will say this though too, because I do appreciate Chase, attempting to make the case for Dallas and Dak and whatnot. For we can keep saying like, oh, it's every year with the Cowboys saying that this is their year. For the past like 6 years, it's been the same thing with the 49ers, and there always seems to be some sort of.
But that's the thing. That's the 49ers. It's always been the quarterback. If you put the middle, like just the most basic like quarterback play, probably like steady throughout the last however many years, they would have won a Super Bowl.
They had that with Jimmy Garoppolo, and they didn't win a Super Bowl.
Jimmy Garoppolo threw an interception. Like, to lose...
Quarterbacks throw interceptions, Sports. Sometimes.
No. Jimmy Garoppolo lost those games. That's how they lost. They had an average quarterback until it mattered when he overthrew Emmanuel Sanders.
You just told me if they had average quarterback play that they would have won a Super Bowl. I'm just pointing out that they had that, and they did not win a Super Bowl.
I guess average might be not the right word then. If they would have had competent quarterback play when it mattered, right? Because yes, Jimmy played very well. I was an avid Jimmy supporter, but when they got to these big games, the quarterback failed them amongst other things, right? But like, it's never been that. Dallas has had Dak Prescott for however many years, and they can't figure it out. They got the hardest position in the world solidified, and they cannot figure it out. And you know why? Because we're sitting here right now going, should they draft a running back in the first round again?
Last question here. Jarrett, who had the sneaky worst free agency thus far? Who do you think under the radar hasn't really been picked up as much, but you were like, they actually had a sneaky disastrous one that I hated. I did not like what they did at all.
Oh, that's good. Let me go through. I'm just going to be doing a lot of talking out loud. Probably Tennessee, because they're very clearly going through like, okay, we've got to deal with Trevor Lawrence now. We're getting rid of all of our offensive linemen. We might trade Derrick Henry. Like our defense was pretty solid on paper last year, but we play in the AFC South, and it's one of the worst divisions in football, only to the NFC South. So like, probably Tennessee. Like, what have they done? I
lost a bunch of snaps. Ben Solak went through it. Like the number of snaps they lost from this year to last. I'm like, oh my god! Like it's pretty jarring.
Like they lost. Like they released Taylor Lewan and Ben Jones. They lose their starting guard to Chicago. Bud Dupree isn't going to be coming back. Oh, Bud Dupree got overpaid by them because he was playing across from TJ Watt, and then he just kept getting hurt. No disrespect to Bud Dupree.
I was going to say he's back in Pittsburgh now, right?
He is. I like Bud Dupree. I'm happy. Good for him. He'll be a nice depth piece. But Yeah, man. I think that they're going to be bad.
Like
It'll
Andre
come down.
Dillard's their left tackle. He couldn't get on the field in Philadelphia. Like he's a bust. I don't see that going well.
Yeah, that'll be. We'll see how that goes. But I think that we're going to get a repeat. I think it's very, very possible that we get a repeat of the 2015 draft where the Buccaneers and Titans were 1-2, and we get it again in 2024.
I hadn't considered that, and I wonder if Derrick Henry, they're just waiting. They want to see the bottom fall out before they trade Derrick Henry.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's traded on draft day.
I was thinking more of Christian McCaffrey type deal, where it's like, oh, the Panthers are bad, and it's like, okay, we need to sell. Yeah. We need to move on from this now. Gotcha. There's a contender like the Falcons would not surprise me if it's week 7 and the Falcons are leading the NFC South, and you already have that continuity with Arthur Smith, and it's like, let's put Derrick Henry in here for a stretch run with him and Tyler Algier and just out physical the hell out of everybody down the stretch.
Just more reason, Chase Thomas, why they should give 2 first-round picks to get Lamar Jackson. You get Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the same backfield, Chase Thomas, they are going to run through the NFC South like it is nobody's business.
I don't know. Lamar Jackson at his age
he's 27!
And we're near the end. I don't think Lamar Jackson is an elite quarterback at 30, 31. I think we're at the tail end. He's missed the last 2 years. He hasn't been healthy. Like peak Lamar Jackson, the best version of him is a top 5 quarterback in this league. That I will not disagree with. I would not give up multiple picks to a team that is still in rebuilding mode, that has spent a bunch of money this offseason trying to get to that point where they can contend realistically for a division title. They're just not like the Patriots make sense where it's like, Bill, you got nothing else, man. You're right. Like, this is it. Like the Patriots not going all out for Lamar Jackson. There are teams around the league where it's like, really, New York, like the Jets, like you're really not going to go after Lamar Jackson with Robert Saleh. Your job might be on the line here. And like you feel like you're close. Like that defense is close enough. There's wide out stardom all over the place. They have a good offensive line. There are better options. I personally, with Atlanta, think that would be skipping steps. And I was adamantly opposed to the Watson thing, where it's like, if you're going to move, not just because of the reprehensible human being stuff and all the stuff off the field, but it also didn't make sense on the field either, which is that, like, if you're moving off from Matt Ryan, it is because it is time to tear this thing down. And Thomas Dimitroff did all he could do to keep this roster afloat. Just put, like, it just, so he gets too much grief now post exit in Atlanta, because it's like he actually put together a Super Bowl roster. He put together some of the best rosters Atlanta's ever seen. He just went about it a different way in terms, like, he finally, the buck, whatever analogy you want to say here, like the buck came due, whatever. And that was it. But like, he still was an exceptionally good GM for a really long time for the Atlanta Falcons. All that being said, when you move on from Matt Ryan, they did him dirty. All that's true. And it's also like, they needed to retool. They needed to tear down. They needed to get their contract stuff right. They needed to go through this tough time. Deshaun Watson made no sense on the field, off the field. All that was terrible. Lamar Jackson, a season later, still doesn't make sense for this particular team. If the Falcons were, if I would say next year, you could sell me on it. I think if you were to sell me and he's in this particular situation this time next year, you could sell me on it. I could do it. Now, those picks are needed, man. The Falcons are not ready to give up multiple first-round picks with this roster. They're just not.
Since we're on the topic of like sneaky bad offseasons, you could say the Ravens. They still don't have a reliable receiving option. Eric DeCosta pissed off a lot of the roster with his comments at the Combine. Rashad Bateman called him out on Twitter, and then I think he deleted the tweet. But everything going on with their quarterback situation, their receivers still aren't good. Defensively, we'll see. Like their secondary, like Marlon Humphrey's really good. Marcus Peters probably did he sign anywhere? Did he go back
to sign somewhere else? I think Marcus Peters is gone. He signed with somebody else, but I don't know who it was.
That tells you how notable that their offseason's been. Is we don't know.
Is he in New York? I think he went to the Giants, if I remember correctly.
That sounds about.
Because I think he reunited with Wink Martindale, if I remember correctly.
Regardless, though, yes, Baltimore not having a good offseason.
Yes, he went to the Giants. Okay. Wing Martindale. Yeah, that's another good one. Evan, do you have one? Worst offseason? Rams? Feel like an obvious one for you.
I mean, the obvious one is the Rams, but I think the Ravens is who I was going to say in the first place, just because what they were doing is just hilarious. But I hate what the Cowboys have done this offseason.
You can't let this go.
I'm not joking. And to your point, though,
I think their offseason's been fine.
You know what I would love for the Cowboys to do? I would love for them to use their pick on like someone that they could pair on the defensive side with Parsons, just like what I was saying for the 49ers when they first got Bosa. Like, just make that defense even better. And then week 3 to week 7, trade for Derrick Henry. Why not? Tony Pollard and Derrick Henry would be better than, I mean, like, that'd be a fantastic duo. You maybe give up a 3rd round pick at that point if the team is really struggling. Maybe a 3rd and a 2nd, the way the Niners got.
You're not getting a 2nd for Derrick Henry at this point. You're not.
No, but my point is like the Christian McCaffrey type situation, maybe. But regardless, I would, like, if the Cowboys did that, I would think that would be a really good move for them rather than using your 1st round pick on it. Like, I don't know.
I mean, we're talking about running backs that are going to get dealt. Like, if I'm the Bills, I'm calling the Chargers, and I'm not hanging up until Austin Eckler's a Bill. Because they've played, like, they've gone with the mid-round running back for the past 3 seasons because they had Devin Singletary. He's now in Houston. They brought in
Was Cook not a 1st round? Was he early 2nd?
He was second round or 3rd round. Was James Cook. Go and get somebody who you know is going to help your offense and fits into what you do. He's a very good dual threat pass catching back that fits in exactly what Buffalo needs right now. If you still want to feature James Cook, which they do, that's great. Then you have Austin Eckler and James Cook. Like,
or trade for Dalvin Cook. Just
wouldn't that be something? Have 2 brothers in the backfield. I'd be all right with that. I mean, hell, they could trade for Derrick Henry too, but Ken Dorsey's playbook only consists of 4 verts with a running back, running a Texas route out of the backfield, so that wouldn't necessarily make too much sense for Derrick Henry, which is why I said Austin Eckler.
Shout out to 4 verts legend Charles McDonald.
There you go. Also, did they hire a new DC for Leslie Frazier, who retired?
Sean McDermott's going to be calling the plays.
Oh, interesting. Well, there you go. Jarrett, what can the good folks check out from you across the internet this week?
Please go and read my feature on Tyjae Spears, running back from Tulane. That is on Bears Wire right now. Incredible dude. I really enjoy being able to sit down with him and talk to him about, just tell his story. That is on Bears Wire right now. Please go read that. I'll have another feature later on in the week on BYU wide receiver Puka Nacua, another just really cool dude. He's training with TJ Houshmandzadeh right now as we get leading up to the NFL draft, the guy who I think is going to be really, really good. So that will be on Bears Wire later this week as well. Pump Fake Podcast. Go listen to the latest episode of that. Really stacked show. Doug Farrar of USA Today, Keith Sanchez of the Draft Network, and then Tyjae Spears actually did a sit-down interview with me on that as well. So you get a double dip of Tyjae Spears and myself. And I do want to say this. The really awesome people at Football Outsiders, they have not been paid by their parent company since December. And they've decided that they're not going to do any more content until they are paid by their parent company, Champion Gaming. Please support them. Do not go to Football Outsiders until they are paid. People who know me and know my content know that I would not be where I am without Mike Tanier, who is the senior analyst at Football Outsiders, and I love that man dearly. And they deserve better, as do all of the contracted guys that they have. They're freelancers who haven't been paid. There's a lot of really talented people there that help bring us a lot of really good stuff to help make our jobs easier. So support them, show unity on Twitter, social media, however you can. But until they get what they deserve in terms of their payment for putting out all that great stuff, DVOA, great articles, great advanced stats, please show support for all the good people at Football Outsiders.
I have the utmost respect for everyone that is a writer in this industry, because every single day it looks like it gets worse. Like, that is an absurd thing. The ability for these companies to find ways to still make millions of dollars while seemingly there's just no money for writers, just as an industry. Like, no writer gets paid anything at all. And like, these companies still have, executives making millions of dollars. Like, it's wild. I cannot stress it, Ed. If I could say one thing, I would say this: when you go to school, get some kind of technical degree, get a job at a tech company, and then do this on the side for free and for fun. Do not try and make it a career. No offense to anyone that does. Go make money and do this as a hobby.
It's hard. I can tell you that much.
if you're into it, there is.
I wouldn't say that. I would say just be as versatile as humanly possible.
That's a better. That's.
I would go make $150,000 a year and then do this because you're bored on a Thursday. Like enjoy this. Don't, I don't know. I feel so, I see these stories and it's infuriating. Like these writers work harder than 90% of the people that I've worked with in these tech companies, and they make next to nothing. It's insane.
Here, I'll be the other side of that coin, because as somebody who does have a journalism degree, and it is
I also
hard.
have a journalism degree and a master. We're doing that. Yeah, we're listening. Like this is like pretty fun because Evan and I, like Jarrett and I, are on the same side of this one, and Evan's.
But you're both great examples. You guys have 70 million projects. You work harder than anyone that I know. You should be making so much money for the work that you put into this, and it's just I hate the industry because of it. People that work their ass off and give good work should be paid accordingly. The people at Football Outsiders right now should not be looking 4 months into the year going, where's my paycheck?
Yeah.
But it goes back to stuff that happened 20, 30 years ago, which is when you made the pivot where you gave it free at first, when these newspapers went online, when all these blogs went free first, and then to try and go back the other way, it just conditioned. Like, it's amazing to me how many times I see content, like even on paywall, because I still subscribe to the local paper AJC and here in Knox News, and you'll see like 7 top comments of like, why would you post something on Facebook that to an article I can't read without buying it? Like, why just tell me what it? And it's like, what? Like, it's $3 for this monthly subscription. It's like Football Outsiders would not have this problem if everyone who read and used that awesome service and read all these super smart people just paid for it. Like, that was it.
I currently have a subscription to The Athletic, to the San Francisco Chronicle, to the LA Times, and I have not read an article. I mean, I don't read, bro. Like, I just don't read.
You support Evan's just
he's just blindly supporting journalism. I can get behind that.
I literally have all these subscriptions just because, like,
you're like my mom, where she's like, I just support what Chase is doing. I don't know what he's doing. He's doing his little pods.
No, it's not even that. Like, I love the San Francisco Chronicle. I love like the work that, like, Eric Branch and some of these guys from 49ers Twitter do. I love their Twitter. I read their Twitter. Like, I love Twitter's my world. Like, if Twitter died tomorrow, I don't know, I would just go like out. Like, I would see Chase in the forest somewhere. Like, he'd be cooking on a fire, and I would just be aimlessly wandering. Like,
Evan.
Mr.
I'm like, Evan Bear, and you're like, what bear? And it's the end of Evan.
But like, you know what I mean? Like, I love supporting these people, but like, I don't know, man. It's a tough industry. I saw that the other day about the Football Outsider stuff, and I was just like, I can't. It's tough.
I can't speak for you personally, Chase, but I will say this: if you are somebody who wants to do this, understand what you're getting into. Because, like, going into this, I think I was pretty naive, like being like, okay, I'm going to go to school, get a 4-year degree, and then be on TV. But very instantly, like, you get in, you're like, all right, I need to take a step back and understand that it's going to be at first a lot of work for not a lot of money. But if you know what you're doing and you're committed to what you're doing, committed to getting better, learning, understanding that it's not all going to come at once. There's going to be a lot of trial and tribulation. There's going to be a lot of failures before there's a lot of success. If you understand all that, you accept all of that, you keep working, get better, and you put the work in that's required. Yes, this industry does suck. There's no way of getting around it. It sucks. But one thing that it does, because it sucks so much, is it does weed out the people that don't actually want it. And as hard as it is to do this and be, I'm going to be 25 this year, and I'm not full-time doing this, but I'm, busting my ass to get to where I want to be. You can still look back and say, all right, I'm not where I want to be yet, but I've come damn far and I'm getting closer. But stick with it. It will be okay. And you will get there.
But you are also a good example, right? We think, like, Theo Ash, you, Chase, are all very good examples of being smart in your approach. Like, Theo's a great example, right? Theo with his 7 million followers, whatever he has on TikTok. Like that's I love TikTok for that reason, because that's how the world is moving. Like if you grow your audience in multiple different ways. Shout out to everyone in the 49ers Twitter world that like had the thought process to go, oh, I should create a YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And now they're getting money from YouTube. Right. Like that's the type of things that you need to be doing if you want to be a writer. And there's one thing I can tell you for sure is it doesn't weed out the people that don't love it, because there is not a bigger, more saturated industry on earth than sports writing. It's like look at Twitter right now. How many people on Twitter write or create content and are genuinely good? Like Jarrett good, like Chase
I don't
good,
think
like,
you're seeing as much content. I'm telling you, you go back like ESPN True Hoop Network and you go back to the old blog days, like 10 years ago, there were so many more writers and consistent writers. A lot have faded away. And then I'll also say on the podcast front, it's like when you see like the number of podcasts out there and I'm like, okay, that's a false number because you need to do active podcasts. Like that's the only numbers that matter. So it's like how many podcasts did 7 episodes and they're like, I'm not doing this. Like this is too much work. That is 90+% of the podcast market. So it's like, it's so overpopulated. There's so many podcasts. It's like, no, it's not. There really aren't. There are not a lot of podcasts where people commit and find their niche and do their thing. It's like, even with the Niners or with NFL, it's like, there's still like, what? I mean, there are just so many popular podcasts. You can find your niche. Like, that's what I would say is like, find your avenue, find your thing that's going to make you stand out, have a plan, be versatile, and be willing to adapt, because that changes. That's the thing with journalism school. Like you and I did this, Jarrett, where I'm like, after I got out, I was like, I don't know how they teach journalism anymore because it's just changing every year. So whatever the professors are teaching is just gonna be out of date. Like they're just gonna be behind. Like you're always behind in teaching these kids what to do.
Yeah, it is strange because like it is a field that like somehow, like at least from my perspective, it's like growing in the people that want to do it in terms of like being involved in like sports content or somehow, but decreasing in the number of roles that are now available because there's so many companies that are downsizing, that are laying off people. Like more people want to do it, but less people are able to do it because there's not as many roles that there. It is a weird field right now.
Yes,
very weird field.
You need to do multiple things and hope until you can
Uber
do that one thing. There you go. Jarrett Bailey, Evan Sowards. Always a pleasure. Evan, I'll talk to you next week. Jarrett, we'll have you back on again soon. You guys have yourself a great rest of your week. Great start to your week. It's Monday night. And I'll talk to y'all again very soon.
Well done, nephew. Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.